Hello, my name is Mac. I was diagnosed with apraxia of speech at the age of 3 and went through therapy for around 8 years. I stopped in the middle of or early middle school, then entered again in high school for 1 year. And recently, just this past year, I went to Apraxia for Kids event, one in Cedar Rapids, another in Milton in Massachusetts. So, growing up with apraxia, I have a special community or connection to the community and want to give back. And also, my job is studying how the brain gives rise to speech. So, also heavily related. So, that's a little bit about myself. It was great. And I wish I went to one of these walks as a little kid. I only in high school, which I guess was a while ago now. I'm 24. I saw the Praxis for Kids website, but I didn't um, really know about the walks. And the past year, I've become more involved in the community, posting a YouTube video and talking to more parents and kids. And I've always wanted to go, so it was great to actually step foot and to talk to people. And it was a really special experience. I lived my whole life without actually meeting anyone face to face with apraxia. So to meet a variety of ages from little kids to people around my age to they had this one older gentleman, which was so nice to talk to and to see how he grew up living with apraxia speech during an age where the awareness was very, very little. He grew up in New York, and to see the adversity he faced, but how strong he really is, and that you could just see it through the way he spoke and expressed himself. And whether it was like Cedar Rapids or Milton in Massachusetts, just share the common experiences of people having for example, a lot of people think I have an accent, and to like laugh back and forth with people, whether it's parents or the people with apraxia themselves, it was a special experience, and I'm definitely gonna come back in future years. So again, it's great to give back to the community because I know a lot of people, parents, and kids themselves have a lot of fear and anxiety about what the future will hold. So to help ease that anxiety and to explain my story, I know everyone's story is different, but it was a great experience overall. I think seeing the smiles, laughs, and just community of families and scientists get together in one place, and everyone's wearing these t-shirts, and I think overall it's a really special event, which again, I wish I went to earlier in my life, but all of those things really warmed my heart. I went to college at New York University studying biology and chemistry, but I always had this intrinsic motivation and curiosity of how the brain is able to formulate something so complex that is language. And I always knew, I think most people with speech disorders know just how complex speech really is. People often take for granted how it involves over 100 muscles. It's super fast and precise placement of your tongue, your palate, your lips, and how the brain is able to coordinate all those things in a precise manner within like milliseconds. So I joined a lab at the NYU Neuroscience Institute, the Long Lab, that studies this interactive speech. And we actually get our data from neurosurgery patients undergoing some type of pre-existing surgery, like deep brain stimulation or some type of tumor epilepsy. So their brains are actually open during the procedure and they're awake, so they can talk. So we have this conversation, and I want to note that they're not in any pain. You don't actually have pain receptors in your brain. So it allows us unique opportunity to have this conversation and to see where in the brain lights up during different aspects of communication, like when you listen to someone versus when you plan, like conceptualize your answer versus when you actually verbally output it. So to dissect and to figure out where in the brain that happens, and then the harder question, how it actually happens, is what I try and study. Um, Specifically the planet and motor regions. And as I'm sure many of you guys know, apraxia of speech is a motor disorder. Uh, uh, um, there's debate about where exactly it happens, whether it's premotor or other regions, but apraxia, again, doesn't define me, but definitely shapes the questions that I ask. And my lab is more of or my previous lab is more of a basic research lab, answering fundamental questions about speech. But I kind of come in with the, okay, how can we think about this people with impaired speech, and how does that inform the questions and our interpretation of the data? So, and actually, just a couple weeks ago, I got accepted to University of Cambridge to do a PhD. So I'm going to be going to Cambridge in the UK in October 2026 this year. So I'm excited to continue learning about how the speech actually happens in the brain. Talking to parents, SLPs or SLTs, and people with speech disorders the past year or two, I've learned a lot about the different types of impairments, all these new therapies coming out, and just the overall science and experience of everyone. And to know that there's a community and that I'm not alone, really, even though I'm 24 now, it makes me feel better. So I could imagine when I was in middle school, high school, especially, that I wish I uh, kind of got more engaged in some of these communities. And one thing I really want people with apraxia to know is that this is a lifelong journey. I've went through a lot of speech therapy, and I still struggle with sounds and focus on my speech. Um, Most people don't think about their speech or their prosody or rhythm. Naturally, I'm very monotone, and I always, especially for interviews like this, always try to increase or intentionally add stress to sounds. So there's all these things going around in the mind of someone with apraxia that I think other people don't always take into consideration. And to know that disfluency is a natural part of conversation. A lot of people say ums or stumble their words, and that's fine. There's obviously we should try to aim to sometimes avoid those disfluencies, but that, you know, communication is more than just a sound wave coming out of her mouth in the correct way. It's how you make the other person feel, and it's about how you feel communicating. So, and to emphasize again, to have a growth mindset that some things might not change, they might stay the same, but that some words, some sounds might improve over time, especially through focus. So, to have a growth mindset and to view communication as more than just whether a sound is correct or not, but how it makes you feel and the other person feel. I remember in middle school and high school, public speaking was one of my many like kryptonites, along with foreign language classes, and but public speaking terrified me. Um, so especially in high school, there's moments where you have to get in front of a crowd and speak, and my heart rate's pounding through my chest, and I have a hard time. Uh, First of all, reading was quite difficult for me, but then to public speak is just adds another layer to everything. So for those presentations, especially if I got time to rehearse, I train, train, and train, and I get in front of the crowd, still very nervous, but I think my friends and my family, when they saw the dedication and how much uh, I put effort into those speeches and they congratulated or they praised me and things like that. That happened years and years ago, but I still remember those like compliments and that praise, and it was genuine. So I think small things like that stick with you, and so those are some memories of how friends and family helped support me through just simple, short words after a speech. I think being understanding, and it's okay if you don't understand me, the first time, but to just be respectful and to be open-minded. And, there will be some sounds and words that sound a little off, but um, hopefully you will like get the gist, or if you don't, that's okay too, but just to be open and to be friendly about it. I know, you know, I mean, even people with accents, sometimes, I have a hard time understanding them, and but everyone has an accent. I think people forget that. So just to be patient and you know, respectful to what the person is saying. I think one thing that makes me shine is how I've turned this kind of not self-hatred, but this kind of negative view of my speech into more of a positive the past couple years, of how like I don't view it as a weakness, but rather that my trouble with speech growing up, I view it more as adversity that made me a better person. And I view, and when I have a conversation with someone, I think it adds to that. I'm thinking more about like how they're speaking, and like um, more conscientious of like the person behind the words. So I think, and how that motivates me to do the research that I am. I think uh, I'm in a quite unique opportunity to study like speech as someone who's had speech problems, and that uh, I'm super excited for um, what lays in my future about studying how the brain gives rise to speech, and how I've turned this negative self-perception into something more positive, and hopefully we'll be able to spread that through interviews like this and other platforms. Happy Apraxia Awareness Month.